Hey everybody, welcome back to Season 2 of the Maddox Podcast. Season 2, Episode 7. Happy New Year.
This is Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
This
Year.
is our first podcast of the new year. It's nice and sunny today, hasn't been, but we have our preferred lender here today with us, Robert Ring.
Hey.
How's it going, Rob?
It's going great. Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Happy to be a preferred lender of the Maddox team.
That's right.
It's going to be a good episode.
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce our wine today? You brought it, right?
Well, okay, so he's got a story about it. So this, you were originally going to bring a Pinot from Costco, but we went with this because you have a cool story about it. So go tell us about that.
Yeah. So, well, this is not the story I was telling you about last night, but we can get to that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, introduce the wine and then tell us a fun story.
So the French wine market right now is saturated. Have you heard the stories about like the French government talking about destroying like millions of bottles of French wine because it's lowering prices because there's too much French wine in supply right now?
I don't keep up much with
I
French
didn't
wine
hear that.
news, but
Yeah,
that's good to
they're
know.
like destroying wine or vineyards or something. They're like, yeah, we got to destroy like 2 million bottles of wine. And you're sitting here going,
I'll drink it.
I can destroy 2 million
Yeah,
bottles
exactly.
of wine for them.
right? So if you go to like the stores, like a lot of French wines are cheaper than they normally would be, like Côte d'Aron and Bordeaux and you know Bourguignon and all the other ones, right? So a lot of wines in the old world are referenced by region. You know, like in Italy, it's all really based on region. You got to dig a little deeper to see what the grape actually is.
Yeah.
But anyways, a Beaujolais Nouveau, if you want to, have a nice cheap French wine, which is really tasty, is an unaged French wine.
Yeah.
So Beaujolais Nouveau, Nouveau is I believe new. I don't know what the Beaujolais means. I should know this. But anyways, this is like $10.99 at Whole Foods 365 Marketplace.
Okay.
And Evie and I get it all the time because it's really tasty. So anytime you see a Beaujolais Nouveau, it's probably going to be pretty decent and it's going to be very reasonably priced. I think it's a little bit sweet, it's a little bit sour, but on the back here it says it's actually dry to medium dry.
We're going to find out.
But that's an old world wine for you. They're usually a little more dry. So
Okay.
Well, cheers.
give it a taste.
First podcast
Xavier,
of the new
you
year.
too? Cheers.
Cheers.
I didn't get you.
I didn't know if we were reaching doing this whole
We're
awkward.
reaching. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Well, that's good.
It tastes
That
like
is good.
A little sour, right?
Well, you said sour,
like
and it
that.
literally tastes like a sour candy kind of, but not in a bad way
Yeah.
because the sweet balances it out.
Once it breathes a little bit and like the ethanol and the sulfites, evaporate off the wine, it'll be
Yeah, because I poured it, 10 minutes ago and let it
a
breathe.
little nicer. Yeah.
It's really nice.
It tastes like something familiar, like a candy.
Yeah, it is kind of like a candy or
There's
something.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
finish this before we
But
start.
it turns into a really nice wine as it develops.
I love it. $10.
Oh, that's gonna bug me. It tastes like
Yeah.
a familiar candy.
You guys want to do a really bougie wine tasting with our Beaujolais
Yeah.
Nouveau?
Yeah.
Okay, so hold it up to your
Oh.
noses.
Okay.
But you
You
got to
gotta do
put
the
your nose on the
quadrant.
top of the glass like this. So
Okay.
you put down here, you're going to smell all the ethanol. You don't want that. You want to smell what's
Don't
in
you
the
go
wine.
straight down?
No, I go like
Oh, you have to go. Sorry.
tip it. Get your nose on the top. All right.
Let's do that a few more times. ASMR.
It's kind of like sniffing glue. With the Beaujolais, you get a little bit high.
A little bit, yeah.
That's Maddox Real Estate After Dark.
Right, after
So what do you guys smell on the?
I'm getting grapes.
I'm getting sour grapes.
A cherry or something.
Well, it is unaged, so you won't get a lot of the
Yeah.
notes that you would on an aged wine, right? Because it's never had.
It almost tastes like a cherry
Cherry.
Jolly Rancher.
Cherry, yeah.
A little bit, like a hint of it. Like a hint of it. That's I think the flavor.
I'm not sure what you're doing, but
You got to aerate a little bit.
Okay,
So
in
put it
your
on your
mouth,
tongue
yeah.
and then aerate.
Yeah, ASMR. My teeth are
Wine
gonna be
snobs
purple.
and sommeliers watching this are going to be like, oh, he's ruining the wine experience. I can't believe what he did at Port Beaujolais Nouveau.
that's good. Okay, I'm not
So
mad.
like just leave it on your tongue, aerate it in a little bit, and then
I'm in.
let it kind of wash over your tongue.
Jamie probably does not like that. Anybody that
Yeah,
knows
the
Jamie
noise.
knows that she has kind of a noise,
It's-
noise phobia.
Hey, it's a real thing.
It's
It's
a real
called
thing.
misophonia.
So you're not
So-
listening to ASMR
It's
videos
a
of
hatred
Yeah.
of sound.
tapping on the hoods of Mercedes at night?
Right. She
I,
doesn't like the lady who eats the Taco Bell.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
there's for me, I get like cherry for sure. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's still sour. It kind of tastes like the sourness you get on like those thick grape skins, like when you're chewing on grape
right,
skins,
right,
right?
yeah.
It's very grapey, as a wine
Very
should
grapey.
be. But you don't get anything that you get when a wine's sitting in barrels, right? You're not
I'm
getting
getting-
any oak notes.
No
There's no
oak.
wood notes that get into
It
the
tastes
wine.
like
So it's
wine
really,
that you dissolved a cherry Jolly Rancher in.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know if that's wine people are probably not like that, but
It's not bad.
She thinks the wine tastes like a Jolly Rancher.
I love it. So what would you pair this with?
We pair this with I think you can pair it with anything, but I mean, spaghetti and meat sauce.
Yeah, Italian. I was
Great,
gonna say Italian.
right? Like it's a basic red wine. Pair it with a basic Italian
Okay.
meal.
Basic.
Basic.
But it's not basic. It's amazing.
It's amazing. All right.
And so you always see with the Beaujolais Nouveau. Typically, you always see this. Like
It's a
the
pretty
year.
bottle.
The year is 2023, right? Because it's new. Wasn't aged.
Well, Nouveau.
So, anyways,
Okay. Well,
there's
that's
that.
good. Awesome.
All right, and that about wraps up our podcast.
I know that. There's 40 minutes. No. So, okay. So we're here today and we want to talk about.
All right, we're going to dive
ADUs.
into the new year. So, what are we seeing in the market? Where do we think the market's heading? Let's just kind of do a market update
Okay.
to start. And then our topic today is actually going to be really fun. We're going to talk all about ADUs,
Yes.
which Rob specializes in. So, he's going to give us a
I have
ton
a
of info
Facebook
there.
page called All About ADUs. Check
Oh.
it out.
Oh, you
There
might
we
get
go.
some
Yeah.
I
subscribers
thought I was
to
original.
that.
Guess we're not. Guess I'm not.
Yeah.
Well,
I
let's
think
start.
you're a member of the page, so it's,
I am. It was, yeah, I'm subconscious. Let's talk about a market update. What are we seeing? How are we feeling? Started off the year, at least where we're from, with a lot of rainy weather. I feel like the sun's starting to peek out, and I already feel that things are really starting to pick up. Where do you guys?
Right. So the end
feel?
of 2023 was kind of quiet, right?
Kind of. Pretty quiet.
It was pretty quiet.
It picked up a little bit. I think rates right before the end of the year got a little bit better.
Yeah.
And maybe a few buyers got in. But as far as like more inventory and stuff, I think a lot of people were waiting for the new year. Feels like once it started that now we're kind of, almost 3 weeks. We're 3 weeks in, past 3 weeks.
From a lending perspective, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing a lot of people that want to sit on the sidelines as rates come down. A lot of people don't want to buy and then have
So
rates
still,
be
there's a lot of
2%
people.
lower in the end of the year. And I tell people like, don't do that. Like, just buy now if you can afford it. Buy now and then just refinance when rates go down.
Right.
Like, no, I'm just gonna wait for rates to go down. I'm like, well, when rates go down, everybody else is waiting for that. Everybody's gonna
Yeah.
jump in the market, and you're gonna be bidding behind people, $50,000, $100,000 over, and you don't want to do that. And it's really hard to talk people into this. It's kind of like telling people not to sell a stock right after it crashes. And like, I don't want it to crash more. Sell, right?
Right.
And then it's going up, and it had a huge surge, and then they're like, I need to buy this stock, and then they buy it, and it already peaked. So it's just like emotionally driven consumerism. I mean, we have to do our jobs and counter that with sound, logical advice that we
Yeah.
know how to give,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I agree. I think that rates are starting to come down. Where are you at? Like the 6.5 maybe range
I mean,
right now?
on government stuff, it's like mid to low sixes for sure.
Okay.
On conventional, it's probably high sixes, low sevens, depending on FICO. And jumbo, it just really depends on like where your jumbo's coming from. Like if you have $1 million to deposit in the bank, Citibank might give you a smoking hot deal.
Yeah.
If you don't, then go to somebody like me, and you're probably sitting around 7% on jumbo.
Yeah, so my experience right now with buyers is kind of same thing. Everybody was waiting on the sidelines. Ton of buyers tapped out last year. Rates were around 8%. Maybe did they go over? Started
Yeah,
to
they
come-
did. They got up to like 8.625
Yeah,
on some
it was-
products. It was
yeah.
ugly. It was really ugly for a little while.
Yeah. And so I think that there's a good amount of buyers that saw a correction and were kind of on the sidelines. And, people still need to buy and sell. We always say that and jump back in. But I do feel that buyers right now are thinking, oh, but what if they come down more? What if they come down more? Well, till all the time. We say it all the time, right? As soon as rates come down, everybody jumps back in. And then what happens to prices?
They go
I
up.
have clients out there right now that are searching, and our conversation is, hey, this is where it's listed. We may not be going 50 to 100 over like we were a couple years ago, but we do want to be kind of competitive, because as soon as this property closes, that's your new comp. And when rates do come down, now prices are going to be, in unattainable areas again, I think.
Yeah.
Rates are coming down, though. People are able to qualify for a little bit more. That's nice. I'm seeing that too. So I think this is really the time for the serious buyers, and we're still kind of in that sweet spot before prices do start to come up. As soon as that sun comes out, man, spring,
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I can tell you this. So I have a listing that I put on maybe 2 weeks ago, week and a half, and they wanted to go on in December. It was crickets in December, and we went on at $699 a couple weeks ago. Actually a week and a half ago, and the open house was crazy busy.
Yeah.
So like 30 groups on the first Saturday, and then 60 groups in the second on the
60?
Sunday. Yeah, it was insane. Like
That's an insane open
It's
house.
insane. So from what I gathered, because I did the open house on Saturday, but it was so busy, and it was raining out. I'm thinking nobody's coming, and the game was on, so I'm thinking, where are these people coming
Yeah.
from?
Wow.
And we got
A
an
lot
offer.
of games were on Saturday, though.
We got an offer 116,000 over asking. So
Holy smokes.
Did I just
Well, nobody knows the property.
reveal the
and
price?
by
Yeah,
the
what's
time
the
this-
address?
What's the
by
address?
What's the MLS
time
number on
this
that?
comes out,
Right.
contingencies will be removed.
But
right?
that, all that to say, like, it's amazing. Like, people, as soon as rates start coming down, the new year comes up. I mean, there's buyers out there, and
Yeah.
There's tons of buyers out there.
tons of buyers. And so as soon as rates come down, prices are going up.
Oh,
Yeah.
Their
absolutely.
bidding wars are happening still.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
already, there's this property that was one day on the market when I saw it on Saturday, and they already have an offer on it. I have a deadline to submit technically by tomorrow morning, but by tonight, basically.
I have a buyer that I pre-approved back in December, and I was helping him look at some houses in, he lives in Texas, but he was here. He's my CPA, and he wanted to buy. And I was like, "There's so many great opportunities in Concord," and he wanted to wait because he thought that prices were going to fall, and I was like, "They're not going to fall."
No.
So he made a deal with me that if they don't fall by the end of January, beginning of February, he'll jump back in the market and reset his expectations and make an offer. And I'm like, "Okay, rates came down, things are taking off." And I'm about to call him and be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you want to do it?"
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, again, just got to go back to, the people that say we're going to wait for rates to drop. You have to know that, like, for 20 years, the demand has outpaced the supply by like 6 or 7 to 1 in the Bay Area, in the greater Bay Area.
Yeah.
This is not the same in other parts of the country, but across the country nationally, though, it still has outpaced supply, but in the Bay Area especially, 6, 7 to 1. And so there's always 6 or 7 people lining up for every single home that's available,
Right.
if
Yeah.
they can afford it, right?
Right.
So if rates come down, you have to imagine there's a lot of people ready to buy that house. And it's not just housing starts, because not every house that is in that exists is going to be for sale at any given time. So you have to look at like how many homes are for sale at a given time. We've gone through periods of extremely low inventory where there's like 30 houses, on the market in Concord, right? And then we've gone through times when there's 400 houses on the market in Concord. So, I would just tell people the same that I always tell them, like it's the best time to buy is when you can afford it. The second best time to buy is when everybody can't,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So, like
Right.
the last 3 transactions that I've done, got a $20,000 seller credit. Everybody got a rate in the 5s through a temporary buy down, and they were thrilled with it. People say, "How did you get a rate in the 5s when they were in the 7s and 8s with a temporary buy down and a seller credit? How do you get one of those?"
Wow.
You buy when other people aren't, right? Because demand was completely crushed because it was right after rates peaked over 8%. There were homes that were sitting on the market where literally 2 months before they were flying off the shelf.
Yeah.
Same, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, doesn't matter. Same neighborhood, beautiful, no deferred maintenance, all the stuff you want. And they're sitting.
I have a few takeaways just to kind of summarize that. I think our advice for buyers right now in this market, like you just basically said, we've always said, if it's a good time to buy, if it's a good time for you,
Right.
if you can afford it,
That's
right?
yeah.
The other thing is date the rate, marry the price. Prices we're still recovering, I feel like, from the peak, which was maybe last June.
Do you tell people that?
What?
Date the rate, marry
You
the
have
price.
to be careful to tongue twist.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
I don't say it.
Date the
I
rate.
don't either.
I don't say
Especially
it.
not on live camera here.
I just don't
Yeah.
say it because I
not
didn't like when it
clipping
came
that.
out, and then
Date the
every
rate.
realtor on the planet was like on Facebook, "You gotta date the rate and marry the house," and I'm
But
like,
Yeah.
marry the price. But it's
Marry the
so.
price.
I still, whatever you want to
Yeah.
say, canoodle with the rate and marry the house. Whatever you want to do.
some people are like,
Canoodle.
I want to take the house for a test drive
Marry
first. Can I
the
rent it? Is it on
Canoodle.
Airbnb?
It's true though, because as soon as rates continue to come down, prices are going to surpass them, and it's all relative, right? You might get a little bit better of a rate and qualify for more, but now you're paying for more for that
Right.
same house that you could have purchased in March.
No,
or
exactly.
January.
Exactly.
A little bit higher rate, and you can always refinance in the future. Not only that, but we say it all the time, property taxes are based off your sales price. It's always better, in my opinion, to have a lower sales price and
Yeah. I mean, you can't always refinance. So, like, I sold a house in
True.
2022 that I flipped out in Oakland, and I sold it for $940. And I get alerts all the time about what it's worth today. It's worth like $800,000. Those people are not going to be able to refinance. However,
Sure.
they have a low rate, and they got it before rates went up, and
Yeah.
that affected values. We're on the opposite side of that now, where rates have come down. They're starting to come. I mean, prices have come down. They're starting to come back up, and rates are going down. So you have to look at what the trajectory of that is. Is that if you buy now, when you see lower rates, you will be able to refinance because you'll have equity. You'll have more equity than when you bought previously because the rates going down will drive that equity up. And that's really what you want. You want to be able to capture, that trifecta. The people that bought they're probably upset that they paid $940 and their house is worth $800,000. But it doesn't really matter because they're not going to sell it. They have a great payment, way better than if they bought today at $800,000 with today's rates, right? And their value will come back. And it's a beautiful home. I know because
It's a beautiful
I
home.
flipped it.
And I saw it.
It was a beautiful home.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
then let's just touch lightly, since it's the start of the year, we talk a lot about this Dream for All.
Yeah.
Dream for All program is coming out, and they just released some new guidelines. This is going to be interesting. So I think it's a 20% equity share still, right?
Yep.
But they've just released the guidelines that it has to be a first generation owner. So you can't have your parents own a house. And if your parents have passed, I believe, they couldn't have owned a house before they passed.
How do they prove this, though? Do they want a birth certificate?
They have a team. They have like an investigative team
Oh,
that's,
wow.
that's looking up. I don't know if it's an ironclad.
It just seems hard
way of
to prove.
doing it,
I mean,
they're
Because
gonna-
if you have a different name or something.
Yeah, you have a
I mean,
different
it's
name,
kinda
or
like
if you were abandoned as a child, or if you don't know who your dad is. Or
similar to how do
No.
you prove that someone's going to use the home as their primary residence just because they're saying they are, right?
Yeah.
Like they have people that look up, I think, license plates and see where cars are registered and drive by insurance companies, drive by or drones or Google Earth and stuff like that. I'm sure there's ways to figure out, it's probably not foolproof. And then at that, it's going to be a lottery system. I think I just did some rough numbers, and it was like if everybody bought a house at 650, 20%, we have a roughly like 16 to 1,700 people that can get this, can make.
yeah,
use of
I mean,
this
in all
program.
honesty, from my perspective, it's not even worth. I mean, it's worth mentioning on this podcast, but it's not worth talking about to our clients. It's not worth promoting on Instagram or Facebook because at the end of the day, the amount of people that are going to be able to get it is like this narrow.
It's
and once people
definitely-
sign up for it, it'll be like a 2-year waiting list. And sure, it will help people, but like we'll know when it's going to be able to help people. We'll say, hey, you should probably look into this program. But like if I cast a wide net and go, hey, 20% down, sign up, blah, 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 I'm going to get like 35 applications. And like, so many people will be disappointed because they won't be able to get the money.
I do think
You know what I mean? Like, it's-
I do
this is
think
what
it's
a challenge with
important
these
to let
programs.
people
It's
know what the
unfortunate.
reality of it is,
Yeah.
right? This isn't going to be, it's not the dream for all, it's the dream for a few.
Yeah.
But if you qualify for it, and the nice thing too is the income limits are a little bit higher than we expected. I think for a,
Is it 100% of AMI?
I think it's a dual income house is like in the
Yeah, it's in the
250
twos.
range.
Yes, I mean, a lot of
not
people will
super
qualify,
low.
so the lottery will take, it'll take a long time, which is fine. I mean, it will help some people, but it's kind of like that
Positivity, Rob.
Alameda.
We're positive on this
Yeah, but think
podcast.
about that Alameda program. What was
Yeah.
it, the Alameda? There's a program in Alameda where they'll give
Yeah.
you like $250,000 for your down payment. It takes 2.5 years to get called up on the lottery system for it.
By that time, I mean,
Maybe by that time, housing prices could have gone up like 30%.
right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's crazy.
But you never know.
I mean, it's cool for those people, but then it's an equity share. And another thing about an equity share, and I hate to dog on this program because it's cool,
Sounds
and I
like
would,
you love it.
I would love to help people get this program, but it's really only if you really need it. Because at the end of the day, an equity share, you're always going to be in that same position. You know what I mean? In 5 years, you want to go sell your house, you owe what you borrowed plus a percentage share. I think it's 17, 20% of how much it's gone up in value. So you won't really be able to successfully execute a move up like you normally would, right?
True.
And I've seen these scenarios. I've
I
seen
think
these
it caps
equity
out at
programs play out.
Does it cap
150.
out?
I think it caps out at 150 or 20%, whichever's
And
less.
can you refinance out of it?
You
I
can
think.
pay it off.
Well, I believe that you can do one refinance if it's going to be similar. We don't have all the rules yet. It's not
So
completely
the way
out,
they're
but you can refinance one time.
that means that you can
Huh.
you can refinance and subordinate the second. So you could refinance to lower your rate one time.
Yes.
But you couldn't do that more times. So but you could refinance to pay them off. But they want to know the value at that time, and then they want their money
share.
back plus appreciation on the equity, right?
Right.
I think it's definitely going to be for the few. It's not going to be a one-size-fits-all program for everybody, especially with the new stipulation that you can't have your parents have owned a home. That's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard.
If I don't know the exact rule, I don't know if it's for one or both.
I mean, I want to lend it
applicants.
out. Don't get me wrong. I've done Cal HFA for like
I think
8
it's
years.
definitely worth looking into, and I think that the serious buyers that were having a hard time last year, just getting beat out. Maybe they only have 5 or 10% down, and they just don't have that extra cash to put down. It could be a good idea for them. Or if you truly are a first generation homeowner, I think that means more to you and your family
Sure.
than a lot of people. So it definitely is something worth looking into. It's not for the faint of heart. I know you have to go through a class, and it's important to get all of that done first. Make sure you're working with a lender that knows the
That
ins and outs of it.
Right.
There's different requirements and such, but I definitely think it's an option for people that
Well, I think
have
what
the
I'll
dream of home ownership.
what I'll do is when it comes out, I'll call through my whole database of people and get a whole bunch of applications and submit them all and just see how long the lottery system takes.
Yeah.
And then when somebody comes up and they're pre-approved, I'm going to print them a golden Willy Wonka ticket.
I've also heard too. So obviously it's the California Dream for All program, but I've heard, and I don't quote me on this, but they're going to be kind of favoring the Bay Area in as far as the lottery system goes, because I think we have a little bit more of a housing crisis up here.
Yeah,
And like
hear
Fresno.
that
And
too.
like SoCal.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Totally. Well, it's cool. I mean, it would be a dream come true for me to get one of those through, because I had so many people pre-approved for it when it got pulled out from under us
The last time. I
It was
hope
very
that they learned
frustrating.
from their mistakes, because that was, I think, crazy for a lot of people. I had somebody that qualified for the original one that was 10%. It wasn't equity share, but it was forgivable 20% per year.
Yeah.
So basically you hold it for 5 years and it's forgiven. But that was very slow. The funds lasted for like a year or more than 6 months for sure.
It was like 8 or 9 months. I
Yeah.
remember. I think we did one together.
It was quite a
like
while, and I
condo
don't
or
think a
something.
ton of people knew about it.
Yeah.
And I had one person, or maybe 2 people, that like just made the boat on that one.
Wasn't it 10% down?
It was 10%, and then
Yeah.
it was forgivable.
It was a good program. That was actually like a really good program.
Incredible. I wish they'd bring that one back, because the 20% is, a lot more cash, but a lot of people can match the 10% and get that 20%. A lot of people just need that boost.
Yeah.
What happened last time with the Dream for All is that people, I don't think they accounted for this, but people that were already in contract were changing their loan to that. So they were now utilizing, they maybe already had 20% down, now they have 40.
It was a mess last
And they
time.
were converting their loans
was a
mid-escrow. It was a mess. It came and went in 8 business days, I think, 8 loan locking days. And it was a mess. So I hope that we kind of learned from last time. Still 20%, 220 million, so whatever that math works out to be. But yeah, it's an option for people.
Yeah, and the Cal HFA system was completely congested. You couldn't get a regular Cal HFA down payment program through very quickly because they had like thousands of files to review. It was kind of nuts.
I think being prepared for this one is, if you're considering it, if it's something you've had your eye on, be prepared, because as soon as it comes out, it's go time.
Yeah.
Right.
Start looking at properties probably now and have something, just be ready.
I have another program that's really exciting that I think will help a lot of people. There's no income limitation on it. There's no mortgage insurance on it. Minimum 3% down, and the rate is about 0.5% lower than what you would get on a regular conventional mortgage at no points, which is amazing. Those are great criteria. It has to be in a low to moderate income census tract. But I finally got the map for this, which I can send to you guys. These census tracts are everywhere. There's a bunch of them in Concord. So I just started going through and calling listing agents, and it's funny because a lot of listing agents didn't care, like whatever. I'm like, you have a house that's sitting on the market, and I have a program that will probably make 50 more people qualified for it that want it. But I'm just gonna keep calling,
Keep going.
dial for dollars, because
Absolutely.
I mean, if it wasn't locationally based, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But people come through their open house. Here's the program, So 3% down, no mortgage insurance, low rate, no points. It's phenomenal. And also, you can use it for a duplex with 10% down, no mortgage insurance, low rate, same thing. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Yeah. I mean, you can do 5% down on a duplex or 3.5% with FHA, but I mean, to have no mortgage insurance and a low rate
Yeah, 10%.
is great.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I think there's definitely options out there, and like we said, this is kind of that sweet time, right? It's a good time for you, but I've always felt that the beginning of the year is kind of that sweet spot before the spring market takes off, summer, whatever, does its thing. So
Well, I feel like it's taken off, so now's the
I do too.
time.
I'm
And after
already-
the Super Bowl, it'll just shoot off like a rocket.
I've heard that. I've heard right
Every
after
year,
Super
right?
Bowl.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
every
it
year.
seems
the
like it.
12th of February, just
Yeah.
Usher's gonna pump us up at halftime.
That's
Be
right.
Ready to buy houses, man.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's get into these ADUs. So All About ADUs is your Facebook group.
I have a Facebook group with
I'm
about
a member of
250
it.
people in it. Yeah.
I need
It's
more.
fabulous, and you post some really great information.
Thank you.
I think that a lot of people these days are, always looking at homes. A lot of homes are marketed, and we talk about how we hate this, but marketed with potential for an ADU or build a junior ADU or ADU. And it's not quite as easy as people make it seem, but it's definitely not unattainable for people, and it could be a great way to make a multifamily situation or have another stream of income.
Yeah.
You have a situation where you have a couple of Airbnbs going on, right?
I do, yeah. I have 2 houses with an ADU on each, and I Airbnb all the ones I don't live in, so 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
The third one we're actually just about to put on Airbnb. We had a long-term tenant, but she moved out. And it's great. Like Jamie said, it is hard to do, but if you really want it, you can do it.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
absolutely doable.
So do you ADU the house and the ADU? I mean,
Airbnb?
do you Airbnb the house and the ADU, or how does
Yeah,
that
like
work?
so the rental property I own, the house is smaller than the ADU. The house is 2-bedroom, 1 bath.
Whoa, okay.
I mean, it's more square feet, but it's just more square feet because it has like 20-foot ceilings in the living room.
Okay.
But the ADU is 2 bedrooms, 2 bath. The house is 2-1. So we've been Airbnb-ing the brand new, ADU 2-2, and it's been making great money. I mean, I think like 1 month it made like $5,400
Nice.
in Concord, where the average rent for a 2-bedroom would be like what, $2,400.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So when this lady moved out, I didn't get a lot of notice. She actually moved here to Pinole, and she was her daughter bought the house, and she was gonna use me, but then her broker, whoever it was, referred her to somebody else, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Because it would have helped me pay for the remodel that was impending. So I had to give the deposit back, which I took a huge deposit because it was during COVID, and I just maxed that thing out as max, pet deposits, first and last month rent, the whole thing, right? So I did that. I remodeled it, and we just finished furnishing it. It's like this close. I have an Excel list of things, and I'm crossing them off. I've got like 10 more things, and then it's gonna be on Airbnb. Yeah, but it makes good money, and we've kind of got it down now, and we're super hosts, and you got the little rare find, label, and it says like great guest experience, the little banner, and we also hired a service called Synchroness, which is really amazing, and they build direct booking websites, and they put you on a project management platform for like professional not project management, a property management platform for like professional property managers for short-term rentals. They automate your system from A to Z. So, like with the cleaning schedule, like the schedule goes out to the cleaners, and they could say, I'll take that date, that date, that date. So you're not like texting everybody to.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
It automates the check-in instructions.
Yeah.
It even interfaces with the smart locks and automatically generates a code for that person for the amount of time they're staying and emails it to them.
Wow.
It sends them a check-in form where they can say the purpose of their visit. They have to upload their ID, so we can do a little pre-check. Because if it's not on Airbnb, like if it's VRBO or Google Vacation Rentals or Vacasa or all these other ones that they do it through, like you don't know who they are.
Yeah. Right.
And I had a lady that wanted to come stay, and I like did a background check on her, and she was arrested a few months earlier for like grand larceny.
Yikes.
And then her credit card didn't match her name. And then I called her and asked her about it. And she got mad at me and she said it was her boss's credit card. And I was like, okay. And then she told me she didn't want to move out when it was done. She wanted to stay longer because she was in between houses. And I was like, I don't think I want you to stay, but I didn't tell her that.
Stolen credit card, squatter, that's all.
So I called VRBO and I complained about it. And she had a really unique name. And the guy was like, how do you know this is her? And I was like, well, I mean, have you ever met anybody else with this name and this spelling? Like, and that lives, she lives in this city. The guy on the phone was like from Sweden.
Outer, first and last right now.
And I'm just kidding. You know what I mean? But I was like, I went through this whole thing. He goes, no, you're probably right. This sounds strange. I'm going to send this to our team. And I was like, how do you guys check if somebody had booked using VRBO previously and then like broken rules or, fraud or wrong credit? He goes, we don't. They can just sign up with another account with a new email.
Whoa.
So Airbnb, they do some identity verification.
Yeah.
So now with the new process, we like upload your ID and we look at your payment and your ID. If it doesn't match.
So VRBO doesn't do the ID check?
No, VRBO is really bad. And so I turned off auto booking because I was like, I just don't want somebody that just got out of jail for grand larceny booking my VRBO that doesn't want to move out in 2 weeks.
Right.
And then she literally yelled at me and told me I was wasting her effing time. And I was like, lady, you're about to live in my house for 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, who's wasting whose time right now?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, it's not the way that you think.
Right.
So we got her booted, and I think I got her banned.
How are
from
you
the app.
protected in short-term rent? I'm sorry.
Well, I want to actually back it up a little bit. Can we, real quick?
Yeah.
Because I think this is getting into the advanced, like we already have ADUs. I want to kind of start from the beginning and go beginner.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
then
Keep us on track.
And
I
then
just
get
don't want to
into-
forget my question.
I don't. Well, how do you go?
So my question is, how do you is the protection the same as like if somebody moves in and squats and rents? I mean, they're on your VRBO. Is there?
Yeah. So it's tough. If somebody squats,
Can you get them out, or is it like are they tenants at that point?
Tenancy is established after I think 28 days.
What if they say
California?
28 days? Then you're
It's
screwed.
a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's all, and then we can go back to it. But go ahead.
I do want to kind of just back it up a little bit because I think there's a lot of people that are, really interested in the idea of ADUs, but they don't really know what it entails. So
Right.
let's say you're looking at a property and it's marketed as, huge yard, great potential for ADU. Let's maybe start with the difference between ADU, junior ADU, things like that.
Sure.
What are you looking for with potential, all that kind of
So
stuff.
what I'm looking for may be different than what somebody else is looking for. Some of it is up to personal preference, but like I want to see the layout of the property, and is there an easy way to get privacy for the second unit or the third unit, right?
Fabulous
So like
point, yeah.
My house, the layout is the ADU is above in the house I live in, it's a junior ADU. It's above the garage. By the way, just for technical definitions, the term junior ADU is built within the footprint of the house, right?
Okay.
So above or below or
That's what
sectioned
junior
off.
ADU means.
Junior ADU.
Good
so
to know. And are there
not
size
expanding it, right?
Are there size requirements for that? It has to be
Yeah.
under like 1,400 or
Can't be
something?
more than 500 square feet
Oh,
or 50,
500?
50% of the GLA of the house, gross living area, square footage of the house.
Oh.
So
One or the other.
Yeah, one or the other.
Got it.
So, the access to my ADU is on the side of my house. You walk up a set of stairs to a deck that's a landing, and then you turn the corner and you're in the ADU, which is above the garage. So I don't really hear people moving around up there. I hear when they're using the plumbing because we have plumbing coming up and down. But that's really minimal. And the privacy is great because they park on the street. They're coming up the side. They're not walking up my driveway. They're not walking in my front door. I don't hear them. I don't see them.
They don't have to interact with you.
No, sometimes I never see these people.
I can't tell you how many Airbnbs I've scrolled past because it's like, we'll meet you when you enter. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I just want to come and stay at your beautiful little
Yeah.
house. I don't want to, not all the time. Sometimes I want to go and meet people and talk. And
No, I understand.
depends on the vibe. But sometimes you're like, I just need a place to
Privacy
stay.
is really important, and guests want it too. They don't want to be, you want it and guests want it. But a lot of people, when they go say, when I tell, home buyers, you should go buy a house with an ADU or build an ADU. A lot of times, sorry to stereotype, but the wife will be like, I don't want that. I don't want somebody living in my backyard. Like you have somebody like pitching a tent in your backyard that they're going to sleep in and build a campfire, right? So privacy is really important around that. But I mean, it pays your mortgage. I mean, an ADU will debt service anywhere from like $300,000 to $400,000. And what do I mean by that? If you buy an $800,000 house, they're paying for half of it.
Oh, the ADU.
With rent.
Yeah.
With rent, right?
On short-term rentals, right?
Let's touch lightly on, so junior ADU, we had a meeting with Anthony Young is a valued appraiser that we know, and he did
Anthony.
a meeting with the board and was talking about the benefits on if you are thinking about it. He said create a door, a single pass-through door that connects to the house, basically a junior ADU.
Yeah.
Because there's more benefits when you're valuing a home appraisal-wise.
There is. He's
Yeah,
right.
what's the difference between building onto the home versus building a standalone structure?
So, I mean, from a value standpoint, so, I mean, I learned this from Anthony, who's a good friend of mine, and he
We'll
said...
have to have him on sometime.
Yeah, totally. So, you can include it in the gross living area if it's connected.
Okay.
There's one single point of connection. And really what you ought to do is build the connection point and open it up when you're having it appraised and close it off when you're not.
Yeah.
Really. And you can do that a number of ways. If it's not connected, the only way they can give it value, there's two ways they can give it value. One is by comps that have an ADU. The other is by square footage.
Yeah.
So they can do both if it's connected with internal access. They can only do one if it's not. So like when I first bought my house, I bought it for $555 with Jason Maddox here, who's represented me. Thank you, Jason.
Wow.
Got a $5,000 credit, so net $550 with the ADU,
Wow.
right?
What a
And
time. What year was that?
2017. Yep.
Yeah.
Best time to buy is now. It always is, right?
Yeah, it
I
always
thought it
is.
was expensive at the time, but looking back, it's like, wow.
But it was so right for you, and now you look back and you're like,
Incredible.
I'm so glad you did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love your house. We have dinner there a lot, all of us, and
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like
it's
my house
so
too.
much fun. Yeah.
We're due
Yeah.
for a dinner soon.
Yeah, we'll
I need to
schedule.
meet
We'll put
the-
that on the calendar.
Yeah.
So I was talking about
The value
Sorry.
difference in
value
ADU.
difference.
Yeah.
Oh, so I
Yeah.
went to go refinance it because I wanted to just lower my rate and reduce my mortgage insurance. And I called Anthony, and he put together a regression analysis, which is like a mathematics thing that they do where, anyways, he looked back at 8 years of sold homes in my area and like did an analysis on homes that sold with an ADU versus homes that sold without, and got a value adjustment figure of like $80,000 in value. And I
Wow.
took that report and I gave it to the appraiser. I said, here's some regression analysis data for the ADU. And the guy loved it. A lot of appraisers will be like, I can't take that, I can't use that. But they can. I mean, if you're giving them data, they can, because
Yeah.
basically they'll have to say something's worth something and then back it up with data. So if the underwriter comes back and says, how did you land on that number? They go, well, here's a regression analysis. And they're not going to, it doesn't matter who put the data together. You know, and in this case, it wasn't me. It wasn't the homeowner. It was somebody else.
And what does a regression analysis actually do for the property?
It gives you data to back up a value adjustment on the value grid and a sales comparison approach on an appraisal.
Value. Okay.
So the value grid would
Wow,
be
one more time.
Yeah.
What
Us
does,
in the back.
does it help? Does it help increase the value, or does it help? Like,
yeah, it helps increase the value.
Increase the value.
Because here's the
Okay.
deal. So like there's like in any given area, like let's take, Concord is like a mid-sized urban area just like Pinole, right?
Yeah.
You probably have anywhere from 0.5 to 1% density of single family homes with an ADU.
Right.
Out of all the single family homes, like I don't know how many there are in Concord. I think there's like 24,000 to 32,000 roughly single family homes. It's like 1% maybe that have an ADU or less, right?
Right.
So when you go to do an appraisal, you've got to look at comps that sold within the last 6 months. If you can't find it, you can go back 12. But like people are not going back past 12 months, and typically not going beyond a half mile to a mile unless they're rural or they really can't find anything. And so you're usually stretching to find like something that sold an ADU. Then depending on the time that it's sold, like if it's sold in like December, it might not have gone for very much. And you go, is that really an accurate picture of the value of my home with an ADU?
Yeah.
So regression analysis goes back longer in time, right? And it tracks data. Now, this is not the right, a mathematician will be in the comments, this is not a regression analysis. Regression analysis when you try X, Y on a graph, blah, 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 right?
All the mathematicians we have listening.
Worked it out with a pencil. So they'll tell you, like on average, like what they're worth, because they'll show what the demand is, for a home with an ADU. And they'll pull out the outliers, like the lower end and the top end. They'll give you an average of what it is. So Anthony could talk about that better, but he did that for me. And in a time when, appraisers are a little better at appraising ADUs now because there's just more comps, the density is increasing. But when there's like no comps or one comp, they might not even do their research or put anything with the comp. They'll just be like plus 30 grand for an ADU. 30 grand for an ADU?
Yeah.
Plus 30 grand for a whole nother residence on your house? Are you kidding me?
Right, because 30 grand is for like an extra bedroom.
30 grand is the rent you could get in 1 year
Right.
on that thing, right?
Wow, yeah.
So I protest that, of course. So he did this, and he could show that the appraiser could support $80,000. It was 80 or 89,000. Anyways, he put this together, and the appraiser brought my home in at like I think 689, which at the time gave me more than 20% equity. I was able to drop my rate, get rid of my mortgage insurance, and then pull out a HELOC for like 110 grand. My payment went down like $1,000 a month.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
And then I took that money and I bought another rental property with it, right? And then I went to my friend and I said, hey, you should lend me money to build an ADU in the backyard. And he liked it, so he did. And I built a 2-bedroom, 2-bath ADU in the backyard. And then I went to my other friend and I said, hey, I got to pay off that friend. Can you lend me some money? And so these are like hard money real estate investors, right? But this is kind of
Your
one of the
friends
ways that you
Peter
can
and
expand
Paul?
on.
Yeah.
Peter and Paul. This is one of the ways that you can expand on, real estate development is going to individual real estate investors to borrow money. Now, it's not the cheapest money in the world, but I'm in like the high risk, high reward category of investing because I'm young, right? If you're entering Social Security phase, you probably don't want to do what I'm doing.
Right.
But anytime you look at like the capitalization rate on investments, everybody knows the higher the capitalization rate, the higher the risk. The lower the cap rate, the lower the risk, right? So if you want to go get a 3 to 5% return with your $2 million that's sitting in a 1031 exchange that you're about to cash out, you can do that all day long. If you want to go get a 10 to 15 to 20% return, you can also do that. Just the risk is a little higher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what is your risk tolerance? Mine is probably higher than it should be. But
Higher risk, higher reward.
I've gotten to a point where
That's
we're
right.
generating $120,000 a year in rental income, which more than covers our entire monthly nut, including PITI on all of our properties and our car payments, and leaves us money left over.
That's
All
amazing.
I hear is Rob's buying lunch today.
Right. Right.
Just kidding. That's really, really
That's
helpful
great
information.
information,
That's
yeah.
incredible information. And anybody that's interested, obviously, I think it's important to have somebody like you or join these groups so that you can, because it's a ton of information. And I think for the standard homeowner that's not in the business, that's not thinking like this, it can be a really scary territory. It's not unachievable, but it's definitely kind of scary territory to get in. And let's talk about that a little bit. What are some of the downsides? Because we always talk about the plus, right? Build an ADU, income potential, this and that.
Right.
What are the downsides? I know you were mentioning on one of your properties that you have to pay for new water lines or expand, like get into all the what's the nitty gritty?
They get you one way or another, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get screwed one way or another. And, who better to get screwed by than a utility company?
Right. Always.
We want to take that girl to prom.
Yeah.
So it's the water company and, the sewer company and PG&E. And so when they passed these laws, I don't know who the senator was or the assembly member that initially passed the bill in 2018 that said you can build ADUs, make it really easy and no impact fees and if they're under 750 square feet and all that jazz. Well, they did an exclusion that you can, so no impact fees on a detached in-law unit under 750 square feet except for utility impact fees. Mm-hmm. And who decides what the utility impact fees are? The utility companies.
And they can just
and Contra Costa, it's different all over the place.
Throw a dart at the board.
Are you guys East Bay Mud here?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Contra Costa Water District. So I went to go say, because you got to tell the water district I'm hooking up another unit, right? You got to get them to sign off. You got everybody to sign off. Fire, everybody's got to sign off. And they go, oh, great. Well, we need to upsize your water meter, and we need a new line. We need to upsize it by 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah.
Yep. I got upsized by 1/8 of an inch.
So is that
why? Because I'm adding 2 bathrooms and a new unit. So
do you think that's a money grab, or do you think that's
of
legit?
course it's a money grab
Yeah.
because my contractor at the time was like, can you please tell us what hydro hydro flow test you did to show that like this is a requirement because according to our calculations, like the existing water meter in line can support what we're adding in here.
Yeah.
And literally they wrote back and said, we don't have to do that. We can just tell you that you have to do this and you have to do it by law.
Wow.
And I was really mad. It was a complete authoritarian dictatorship, Stalin-esque approach to pay us $15,000. Oh, and they tried to make him sound like the good guy because they said, well, it's really $30,000, but we're giving you a credit of $15,000 for your existing water meter. And then they called me back. They said, we have great news. We have a $2,300 check for you because they got done, and it really only came out to $13,000 so-and-so. And I was just like, great. I just got screwed a little bit less by you.
Right.
I'm not celebrating. I'm just a little bit less sad than I was previously.
A little less
Right.
sad. Yeah.
So they don't have to prove it. They can just say it. And I called there's a department in California. I tracked this down when I was up on a vacation in the mountains, really irritated about this one day. And I was just Googling ferociously and, dialing. And I got a hold of somebody at some state contractor department. It wasn't the CSLB, but there's this department that helps you interpret construction laws in California. And he looked at the bill with me and he goes, yeah, no, there's an exclusion for this. They can do it. And I was like, just whatever they want and they don't have to back it up. He goes, unfortunately, yeah. And so I'm like,
Wow.
who's the assembly member that fought for this? Because the guy who fought for this that pushed it through, he intentionally fought for no impact fees. Why did he agree to an exclusion for detached ADUs on utility
yeah.
impact fees, right? So like the impact fee that I would have had to pay, the regular impact fee for adding a residence to a city would have been $30,000, right? And it was waived because my unit was exactly 750 square feet.
Oh, wow.
It was waived. And I took it into the school district, which is right around the corner from my house, Mount Diablo School District, and I said, I need you to sign this, and pay impact fees if I have any, but I don't think I have any. And they go, oh, this is great. Not a lot of people know this. You avoided the impact fees. Exactly. To the square foot. That's great. They were all happy for me. They signed off on it. That's great. But then the water district. And then, like the sewer system, they got $1,000. I called the director of the sewer system in Contra Costa because I was livid. And I was like, is this true? Can you just charge me whatever you want?
Oh, my God.
And he goes, unfortunately, yeah, it's true. He goes, I'm really sorry. I didn't make these rules. And I'm not the one that decides what we charge you. And he goes, but they can do that. He goes, we're only going to charge you $1,000 on ours, but they can do that. So anyways, you got to pay it. But you know what? It's the cost of doing business. It's like taxes. We don't like it, but we got to pay it.
We got to pay it.
And what the answer is make a little more money
Yeah.
and go do it again.
That's right. We're
heading towards the end. I think we can wrap this up. We could go on and on about ADUs.
could,
I know
yeah.
you could forever.
We'll have to have you on again and talk more.
Can I say one more thing about ADUs?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to say
absolutely.
let's
So
kind of lead to our.
if you're looking at, I talked about what's good for a junior ADU, like privacy is really good and soundproofing and where it's located. For a detached ADU, what you want to look at is the lot configuration. Do you have a deep backyard? Is there two-dimensional access to your side or backyard? Like, can somebody get to it from another street? Right, that's ideal because then you can just split it. You never see the people coming or going.
Yeah.
Like that's what you want. So you want a lot that's really conducive to building another residence because the setback requirements, which is how far you have to build it back from the property line on an ADU, are only 4 feet.
Yeah.
So, you think, look at the buildings in San Francisco, they're like 2 inches away from each other.
Right.
You can really butt them up. And the neighbors there's no ministerial approval on a detached ADU, which means that if you wanted to build like an Art Deco whatever or a garbage dumpster house, the neighbors can't come in and say, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That you can do it, right? So you really just want a lot that gives you ease of access to that because you're going to lose part of your backyard and you don't want people walking through your yard to get to the ADU.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I did on the other house that I had is there's 2 streets. It's a long parallel lot that connects to 2 streets.
Oh,
one house
yeah.
is entered from one street, one is from the other, and there's a fence right down the middle. These people don't even know that the houses are on the same lot.
Perfect.
They have an address on each of the different streets.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask that. Okay, so they
Yeah.
have a separate address. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Wow.
fought with the city of Concord to get the first address on Livery Lane because I argued that Livery Lane is one of the oldest roads in Concord. It shows up on the first maps in 1865 in Concord.
Of course you know that.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
I love that you do the research.
Yeah,
and just
I'm
know
like,
this
who's
stuff.
pulling maps from 1865?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
somebody told me that and I just
Yeah.
ran with it.
That's amazing.
Could be a lie.
You could have made it up and I wouldn't fact check you.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we could go on and on about ADUs. I think this is probably a good point to say to our listeners, start asking questions. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Let us know if you want us to expand on topics like this. Obviously, if you're not into ADUs, it's probably a lot of information. But if you're thinking about it, it's probably just enough information to kind of get you started and maybe give you that push to maybe set that as a goal. I know my goal is to run an Airbnb one day.
Yeah, and go to All About
born to be a
ADUs on
host.
Facebook because it's a huge community of people and we're posting stuff that's super helpful.
Yeah.
And if you want to do it, reach out to me and you can hire me as your project manager to help you with your
So
Yeah.
we'll put
We'll
put that
link your
information
contact
in.
info.
We'll put that in there, and then
Where
and
can
anybody can join the group.
Anybody can join the group as long as you're not like a a contractor or a lender getting in there to promote
Yeah.
yourself and your business. Like we want the value add. We'll do webinars and things, but we don't want people that are getting in there and sniping, trying to pull people
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
all
for
that.
sure.
That makes sense. Well, I think that kind of wraps
That
up our
wraps
episode
us
today.
up.
That was a ton of good information.
Yeah.
Nice way to kick off the new year. But you can find us on Instagram at, what is it? The Maddox Podcast?
The Maddox-
or is it Maddox Podcast?
Maddox Podcast.
Get it wrong every time.
Yeah.
On Instagram at Maddox Podcast.
MaddoxPodcast.com.
MaddoxPodcast.com. You can search Maddox Podcast on YouTube as well, but the MaddoxPodcast.com will take you there. You can find me on Instagram at realtor.jamie, Jamie, not Jaime. They can find you on Instagram at
Robert Ring Team.
Robert Ring Team, Jason David
ring on your
Maddox.
finger.
You can find us at Maddox Real Estate, MaddoxRealestate.com as well. But yeah, reach out. Let us know what questions you have for us, what you want to see on upcoming episodes. I think we're nearing the end of season 2. We have a lot of ideas for season 3, but we want to keep it going. We want
Yeah,
to keep
we're only going to
content.
get better. And we've got almost 50,000 subscribers, so we really, really
amazing.
appreciate that. And we do not take any of that for
Don't
granted.
take it for granted.
Like
Don't
and
take it for
subscribe.
granted. Like and subscribe.
Seriously, though.
Yeah,
we want to
yeah.
keep bringing you information.
Absolutely.
Hope to get a little bit more out there on other social media platforms this year as well,
Absolutely.
too. It's a lot, but
Yeah.
we're doing it. So follow us and stay tuned for the next episode.
Thank you,
See you guys
everybody.
later.
All right.